Tonight, I want to make sure that we add value back to you. You're investing a little bit of time with us tonight, and it's really important for me that you walk away with something that you can apply, not just something you went aha on, but something that you can actually apply. But I'm going to do a quick introduction of myself, so I'm a little bit familiar with you. Again, I'm Preston Poore, so welcome tonight. This is a picture of my family, my daughter Caroline, and then our dog Bonnie, and my bride Carl. I mentioned her a little bit ago. She's moderating in the background for us, so appreciate her doing that. And then my son Ben, and I think Ben's on here tonight, so that's great. Love to have him here. I have been in the consumer products industry for over 25 years. I've sold everything from dog food to chocolate to pasta to beverages. So I've done a lot of that and been out there, but I've also worked for a company called Dale Carnegie Training. Has anybody ever heard of Dale Carnegie Training? Raise your hand real quick. Yeah, thumbs up on that. He wrote a book, How to Win Friends and Influence People. And so I learned how to coach, teach, and train in that. And I'm also, what I'm representing tonight, beyond all the other industry stuff I mentioned, I'm focusing on my work with the John Maxwell team. You can see if I scoot over on that. But I'm a member of the John Maxwell team, certified coach, teacher, and training. And, you know, over my time that I've had working in that industry and working with training and everybody else around that, there's one really, really important thing that I learned along the way. And it's this. If you've ever been in a training class, you'll get this real quick. But it's Ben Franklin said, teach me and I forget. I'm sorry, tell me and I forget. Teach me and I remember. Involve me and I learn. And if you can remember that, today we want to involve you. This isn't going to be any normal webinar maybe that you've been to. And here's how we're going to do it. I'm not going to just talk over a bunch of slides and send you on your way. That's not the guarantee, and that's not the promise that we have today. I'm going to share a couple concepts with you, and then I'll break you out into groups, small groups, 2 to 3 people, probably 3 today. We've got a bunch of people on that, and give you some time. But you're going to talk amongst yourselves about a couple questions that we'll pose to you, which we'll have fun with on that. And then after you're done with your breakout, we'll bring you back in and debrief and ask you to share a little bit about what you heard, or what you talked about in a valuable point that you feel like that needs to be made. So this is really about you and the engagement around that. So that's why I'm excited about offering this instead of it just being a talk over piece for us. So before we get going, I want to show you the road ahead about where we're headed today. We're going to do a couple things. We're going to do the what and who of influence. We've got a quick little block on that. We'll do a quick breakout. And then we will come back and talk about a couple ways to actually increase your influence. I'll give you a couple ways to do that tonight. And then we'll do another breakout, and then we'll come back and I'll give you this little thing called a reflection starter kit that will help you in terms of an individual, in terms of your personal and professional development. So that is our roadmap for tonight. Does that sound good, everybody? Can I get a thumbs up? Everybody good? All right, that's great. Okay. Any questions before we get going? If you have a question, you can ask me. Let's do that. And just use your space bar to take yourself off mute. Any questions that are out there about what we're trying to accomplish tonight? Anything? Okay, really good. Well, let's get rocking then. Okay, Carl, here we go.
Real quick.
All right.
If there's a possibility, I'm so sorry. Is there any way to print this out to go along with it, or is it just a go along on the Zoom itself?
Yeah, it's just Zoom on itself.
That's fine.
Right
no
now.
Problem.
Is that okay?
Thanks.
Yeah, I'll also give you some things and some time to take notes. And then, Vince, if you need something from me, shoot me an email. I'll be happy to share it back with you on that. I'm looking over here because you're on the screen over here too. So thank you. Thank you for that. All good. All right. Hey, real quick, in the chat box, do me a favor. Again, let's use this for just a second to stir a little conversation. Instead of me telling you what influence is right now, why don't you tell me what you think influence is? How would you define influence? One word, or just a small little phrase, but what would you say influence is? How would you define influence? Take just a second, pop that in. Hope they'll come across on the chat box here, but how would you define influence? Competence. Okay, good. Thank you. That's John saying that. Really good. Who else? Come on, we got some stuff out there. Give me 2 or 3 more out there. How would you define influence? Attention, persuasiveness, presence, confidence. Good. Persuasion. Yeah, all really, really good words. So thank you for thinking about that. Here's what I've learned about what influence actually is. Vocabulary.com says this. I'm going to give you 4 different thoughts around influence, but vocabulary.com says this. It says that influence is the power to have an important impact or effect on someone or something. An impact on someone or something. That's a great definition. If you look at the Latin meaning of the word influence, it means to flow in. Influence means to flow in. So we are impacting, affecting other people or circumstances. We're influencing those. My favorite definition that I've always heard of influence is leadership without the crutch of authority. Think about that. Leadership without the crutch of authority. You don't have that direct authority. And lastly, John Maxwell, who all this content really is based on today, that we'll go through tonight, he says this in his Law of Influence. He says that leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. So influence is leadership, or leadership is influence, nothing more, nothing less. Now, this is going to be our first exercise of the evening or the afternoon. And so I'm going to ask you to do something. I'm going to take you out of your comfort zone for just a second, if you will. I'm going to ask you to shut your eyes. You're not in a room with other people typically. Otherwise, we would say, hey, nobody's going to touch you. Don't worry about it. But if you do me a favor, shut your eyes and we're going to visualize something. I'm going to ask you to think about somebody that had a positive impact on you in your life. One person that had a positive impact on your life. Maybe it was a parent. Maybe it was a teacher, a coach, a friend. How did they treat you? Did they encourage you? Did they help you overcome challenges? Did they make a way for you? Did they believe in you? Can you see that person? Think of their name. Now what I'd like for everybody to do is to look up and open your eyes. Can you think of that? Did you see the person? Did you think of them? Get a thumbs up from everybody? Great. Because here's why that's important. We're going to send you out into a breakout. Carl's going to do that here in just a second. And we'll put you in groups of 3, Carl. I think, how many people do we have on the right now? Okay, so we got groups of 3. So we're going to give you about 7 minutes tonight. It's not very long. But what I ask for you to do is to answer the question on this next slide is, who influenced you and why? It's really important to think back about those folks, and you'll see how all this ties together. But talk about who influenced you and why as we go in these breakout rooms. Does everybody understand? Is that good? Everybody go around the horn. I won't be in every one of these to moderate, so you'll have to have somebody lead the group and just go around the horn and talk about who it was and why. Does that make sense? Everybody good? All right. We'll see you in about 7 minutes. We'll bring you right back, and then we'll do a quick debrief. See you in a minute. Okay. Thanks, Noel.
I was in group 4, and we all clearly had one person identified that was a person of influence over our lives. And I think we were all talking our professional careers, and it was primarily, they were calm and cool people that were outstanding listeners and probed us with questions to allow us to figure things out on our own without telling us what to do. So I think that was kind of common with the 3 of us.
Okay, that's really good. So things like listening, empowering, right? When you have a problem that came up and how do you solve that, and working with that, the calm, the cool, collectiveness, all good attributes that they probably modeled for you and influenced you in terms of career. So really good. Thanks, Noel. Thanks for going first. That's awesome. Let's have maybe a couple more volunteers out there. Who has somebody that either influenced them or you heard something that you want to share? Anybody out there? Let's get, who's
I'll go. So I actually kind of talked to myself. I don't think my group could hear me, so who knows what's going on there. But I went with my high school football coach, and what stood out to me about him was his repetitiveness and consistency. And there are probably 3 or 4 sayings that he said every single time that stick with me today, and I even use them on my teams now.
Yeah. What was one of the sayings, Russ? Not to put you on the spot, but I'd love to hear one.
Sure. My favorite one was one that I really didn't even understand until I got a little bit older in life. But he said, "Boy, you look like a blind dog in a meat house." I had to really think about that. But if a blind dog's in a meat house, what does he do? He's just following his snout and basically doesn't know where he's going. So he's all over the place.
Yeah, going all over the place. That's awesome. Okay, good. Thanks, Russ. Love it. How about one more for the good of the webinar tonight? One more.
So one of our influencers out of Group 3 among coaches was a primary school teacher as kids developed and learned to write in cursive. And the idea was that how you write represents who you are, and eventually will represent how you communicate and how you will be perceived when you communicate. So I found that to be very influential in terms of, now later in life, how important that is to communicate and how we communicate, how we read and how we write.
Yeah, makes it out. That's neat to hear because of the shaping, the molding that somebody had and the way that they influenced you and the way you communicate is very, very important, even in the handwriting. Now, I'm left-handed and I have chicken scratch, so hopefully it doesn't say much about me, but that was just a joke. But was that Rob on there?
Yes.
Is it Rob? Is that correct? Okay, good, Rob. Thank you so much. Is there anybody else who wants to say anything on that's just chomping at the bit they'd love to share? Okay, cool. All right. Well, hey, thank you for doing the first breakout. We're going to have one more. And at the end of this, I'll ask for a few people to tell me what their one takeaway was from tonight. But that was a little bit. Now, one last thing before we go on this, and you'll see how this all ties in just a little bit. Think of somebody now that you want to influence. Who's one person that you want to influence? Because you came on here to learn about the power of influence and how do we influence others? How do I get better at that? Here's where the application starts. Think of one person that you want to influence and write that name down. Or you can make a mental note of it, but you'll need to refer to it here in a little bit. Good. Has everybody got a name? Can you raise your hand or thumbs up? Has somebody got something out there? Okay, good. Good. Excellent. All right. Hey, so we're going to keep moving here into the next piece, but I wanted to make sure that everybody understands this, that leadership is about people. It's not about position. It's really not about position. Now, a lot of people think, and I've encountered this, they feel like that they say, I'll be able to influence people or become a leader when I get to the top of the ladder. And that's really not the case. You have to learn how to lead along the way, to grow along the way. It's a process about becoming a leader. And also, it's about people. Now, I don't want to negate position. A lot of people have great positions, and that's wonderful. It's a great opportunity for you to showcase your influence, to showcase that influence. But be careful. Because here's the deal. The better the leader that you are, the greater influence that you're going to have. The less well you lead, your influence will go down. It'll dissipate. So it's kind of a relationship you think about. If I'm a great leader, my influence is going to expand. If I'm not a great leader, it's going to dissipate over time. It's so important. So leadership, though, is about people because we work with and through other people. So just remember that. So important. Now, hey, I've got an amazing statistic I want to share with you. And I was amazed the first time I heard this. But we're going to go back to that chat box real quick. And if you'll open up your chat box, and I want you for me just a second. Think about the number of people that you will influence in your lifetime. How many people will you influence in your lifetime? Think about that. How many people over your lifetime will you influence? Go ahead and pop that number in the chat box real quick. Don't have to think too much about it, but think about that. How many? Pop something in there. I'm seeing 100,000. I'm seeing a million, 1,000, hundreds, 300, a million. Big numbers. Ooh, and somebody hit it right on the dot. Wayne, my friend Wayne, hit it right on the dot. You know, sociologists tell us that even the most introverted person will influence 10,000 people during their lifetime. And across an average lifespan, that's about 4 people a day, which is very incredible. And you can use your influence for either positive things or for negative things, but just be aware of that, knowing that you influence 10,000 people over your lifetime. Could be less, could be more, but that's the average. But the great thing about that is that we have the ability to shape the way people think, the way that they feel, and the way that they respond to life, the circumstances they have. And so we can help shape that. And as we influence them, John Maxwell in his book, Becoming a Person of Influence, he teaches that there are seven on the screen here, 7 different ways to influence people. I'm going to walk you through these briefly, but we're only going to talk about one of these today. So this is from worst to best. And if you're taking notes or whatever, go ahead and do this. We're only going to talk about one today. So from worst to best, worst to first, the worst way you can do anything is if you force others to do things where there's absolutely no choice. A cousin of force is intimidation, where they say it's my way or the highway. It could be manipulation. There's a winner and a loser. And then you start moving these other things. It says positional. We follow somebody. We talked about position just a little bit ago. We follow somebody because of their role or position. We have to. There's this idea of exchange. When we both win something, I'm going to follow you, and you can influence me in my actions and thoughts. Getting even better is persuasion. People follow because they want to. And last but not least, this is the pinnacle from an influence perspective. If you're leading out of respect, and what does that mean? It means that people follow because of the request. The leader's requesting they're following, and come follow me. And you respect the influencer, and that's why you do it. You're following them out of respect. So 7 different ways and methods to influence others: force, intimidation, manipulation, positional, exchange, persuasion, and respect. Now, I said I was only going to touch on one. I want to touch on this one for a certain reason. One is it's an intimidation, my way or the highway. How many of you have ever worked for somebody that was an intimidator in terms of that? Is anybody? Yeah, I see Ken Mead on the screen right now. He used to be on my team, and I know you think I'm an intimidator, don't you? Yeah, see you laughing, smiling over there. So, no, good stuff. But thank you for being here, Ken, tonight. I love it. But intimidation, my way or the highway, it's the workplace bully out there. And the challenge with that is that if you have a workplace bully out there and you have somebody that's intimidating from a leadership perspective, it does a couple things. It's going to stifle creativity. How many of you have ever taken an idea out to a boss before, a manager before, and they poo-pooed it? They said no. They said my way or the highway. Or you took them a couple different ideas. Eventually, you stop taking people ideas because they don't accept them. It's my way or the highway. It also stifles productivity as well. So intimidation is certainly not a good way to do it. But the reason I want to chat a little bit about that today is because I do feel like that there is some of that intimidation out there. Not to say that you all are, but something to look for and to watch for. And intimidation leads to this big word on the screen, disengagement. How many of you know what engagement means in the workplace? Does anybody know? Raise your hand real quick. Kind of, sort of. It might be a new term to you. 10 years ago, it was absolutely new to me. I had no clue what it meant. But engagement means this. It's the level of discretionary effort that an associate, a teammate is willing to put forth toward their work based on the relationship, that direct relationship with their manager and or their work environment. It's primarily predicated on the relationship with their manager. It's if they're emotionally connected to their role. Are they loyal to what the company, the organization? Are they putting forth their best effort every day? Are they coming with new ideas, innovating? If they're engaged, they're doing that. But here's the sad news on this, folks. Is that, I don't know if you know this or not, but Gallup does a poll every year to determine what the level of engaged associates are across the United States. And any guesses out there about what the percentage of engaged associates are, ones that love the work that they're doing, love the company they're working for, innovative, put forth all kinds of energy, they're engaged. Any idea? Only 30% of associates are engaged. 70% of associates are either not engaged or they are actively disengaged. Now, the engagement is a whole nother topic that I'd love to talk to y'all about some other time. And I've done some writing on it. But engagement is so important. I've done a couple of teams at Coke during my career there too. But engagement is just critical for improving and make sure. But if you're an intimidator, you're not going to drive a culture of engagement, and you won't help your employees become the best version of themselves. And as we move away from engagement, the next thing in terms of thinking just about influence, you got to ask yourself the question, why do you want to influence anybody? Why would that be important to you? And there's two things or two reasons I found that you can influence folks. One is out of personal gain. It's probably not the best thing. It's so you can gain and so you can win something. But the best way and the best reason of why to influence somebody is because if there's mutual benefit, you both win. You work with and through people, influencing them, actions, the things that they do, the way they feel, the way they act, and helping you accomplish common goals for a common benefit. So absolutely, you have to think about why you want to influence other people. Now, I want to say this too. You think about intimidation, you think about manipulation. There's this core thing in influence to build around. It's called trust. Trust is the foundation of all relationships. Without trust, influence is nothing more than coercion and manipulation. As a matter of fact, Stephen Covey said this. If you read the books, The Speed of Trust, he said, trust and the speed at which it is established with clients and employees is the essential ingredient for any high-performance, successful organization. The truth about that is that trust changes everything. Now, associates are going to look to you as a leader, whether they're going to want to follow you or not, and whether you're trustworthy. And they're going to ask you 3 questions. People want to know, and I don't know if you've ever heard of this phrase before, but people don't know, or people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. They also, it says, people care how much you know once they know how much you care. They want to know if you care about them. These are 3 integral questions that you could ask. I would write these down because people want to know about, do you care about them? Will you help them? Can you help me? That's another question. Can you help me achieve my goals, my dreams, the things that I want to accomplish professionally, personally? And last but not least, can I trust you? Do you have my back? Do you have my best interest at heart? People want to know as you become and grow your influence, think about them and what they're thinking about you. Are you empathetic? Do you care about them? Can you support and develop and help them remove barriers? Or can you trust them? Can they confide in you? Do they know that you will be there to help them when they need it? And there's 2 things. We're rounding the corner to the next breakout. There's 2 ways that John Maxwell, just really basic ways to increase your influence. I'm going to give you 2 here. Now, I want you to think about these 2 before we go in the breakout. Number 1 way to increase your influence is by adding value to others. You can increase your value or increase the value to others by adding value to them. You can increase your influence. Here's how you increase your influence on other people. Think about this. There's multiple ways you can do it. You can help them, like I said, achieve their goals. You can also help them and believe in them. Believe in somebody. We talked about that earlier. If you thought about somebody that was a mentor for you, you probably had somebody believing in you. Also, if you're developing them, if you're helping developing them, that's how you're adding value back to them. How about if you help them overcome a challenge? That's another way that you could help them in terms of adding value back to somebody. And last but not least, encouraging. Are you lifting people up and encouraging people? And that's how you can add value back to them. Because leadership is about working with and through people. It's about people. It's not about position. And again, leadership is about influence, nothing more, nothing less. Again, so I'll walk through those one more time. Adding value to others, there's 5 ways that I see it. 1 is helping them achieve their dreams and goals. 2 is encouraging them. 3 is believing in them. 4 is developing them. And 5 is helping them overcome a challenge. We're going to go to the next one. There's 2 ways I said. This is the second way. 1 is adding value to others. This one's interesting. You may never have thought about this. But when we added value to ourselves, we become more valuable to others and we expand our influence. So if we grow personally and professionally and increase our value and become more valuable to others, we will increase our influence. So my question for you on the line today during this webinar is, do you have a personal development and a professional development plan? Do you know what skills that you have that you need to amplify and also shore up? Do you know what those are? Because if you go work on those, that personal development plan, you certainly will become more valuable to others and your influence will grow. So again, 2 different ways to grow your influence. 1 is to add value to others. And then the other way is to become more valuable yourself to others. Does that make sense? 2 ways against all that. So what we're going to do is we're about to go into another breakout. And I want you to take this and take some serious things on this and think about this. How will you increase your influence? And do you remember the name that I asked you to choose after we went through the visualization exercise? I asked you to pick somebody that you wanted to influence. apply this question to that individual. How will you include or increase your influence with that individual? Will you do it through adding value to them through the 5 ways I mentioned? Or will you work to become more valuable and develop yourself to become more valuable to them? Does that make sense? You're going to answer one of those 2 questions in light of the person that you chose that you want to influence. I hope it does. We're going to send it out to a breakout for about 5 minutes. It looks like it's 6:37 Eastern time. So I'm going to send you out for about 5-6 minutes and have you discuss. Carla, are we ready? Okay. Is everybody good? Can I see some thumbs up for the people that I can see on the screen? Everybody's got it? Be brave. If you're introverted like I am, it's okay. You can talk. You got the screen there. You're good. Use your Zoom muscles. See you in a little bit. We're good. But I would love to hear from you. You don't have to say the name, or you can say the first name at least of the individual that you would like to influence. But I'd love to hear, how do you plan on influencing that individual? What did you hear from the group that you were in? Will you be adding value to them through one of the 5 ways that I mentioned, or will you be becoming more valuable yourself to grow your influence on that? So who would share with me that hasn't shared yet? Somebody that's willing to be bold. We'll take 2 or 3, maybe 4 from a conversation perspective, but share with me a little bit about that and what you think you'll do.
I'll share. My name's Amy, and
Hey.
I was in a group of 2, and it was kind of like a more inverted, because it was one of these things. Well, I'm in a position where I'm seeking employment, and I was saying I felt so out of touch with everything because I was somewhere for such a long period of time, and I just kind of tunnel visioned into the role and into just the company itself. And I said, I don't feel like I have value that I'm adding or, influencing. And the person I was in the group with said, well, you are adding value to yourself because you're in this call. And it completely changed my way of thinking right then and there. So he had such an influence and value to me, and I don't think he even realized, but just in that few seconds, it was just like the biggest light bulb has gone off. So thank you to my person.
No, good. So thank you for that example. Isn't it amazing if somebody just makes a small comment to you like that, how the influence they have on us? Because you just told me that it had a big impact on you. And it probably built your confidence, I would imagine, right in that. And you think about that. So think about how you can pass that on that, as you have not only the opportunity to hear from people, it's also to be a river and flow out to others, and like influence that flow into others, if you will. So thank you, Amy. That's wonderful. Just a comment like that to build confidence is awesome. Fantastic. How about a couple more?
I can add one.
Sure. Hey, Lauren.
Hi. I'm an executive coach, and last year during COVID, I decided to become certified. So put myself through some really good training and came out of it realizing that I really wasn't a coach. I was a consultant. And the part of coaching that was really fascinating to me was the ability to really listen and to ask powerful questions. That I didn't have to do the work for my clients, but my role is to help them do the powerful work that would help them move forward. And it was really quite a transition for me. And now it's joyful trying to help people in a different way.
Okay, and that's awesome how you're using your influence in a positive way to help others. And the coaching methodology really is around the self-awareness and asking questions and pulling the answers out of them, because they typically know that, right? What's going on, and you're just facilitating that thought process. And that's a huge way to have influence on people. So thank you for sharing that. Appreciate that. Thanks for being here tonight.
Thank you.
All right. Hey, let's get maybe 1 or 2 more. We've got some time tonight. Let's do 2 more. 2 more.
Hey, Preston, I'll jump in.
Okay.
Yeah, and so I'm taking on the tall task of trying to influence my teenage son. And I was telling the gentleman that I was with, it's not, it's the challenge of the conversation. He's feeling like I'm dictating and telling him what to do, versus trying to have a conversation and engage him and help him think about, where he is in his life, where he wants to go next. And so I need to kind of change that routine. And so it's a little bit of, I want to change my approach how I speak to him, but in a way that gets him to start thinking that, we're having a discussion, just an intelligent conversation versus dad is, when he walks into the room, he's going to start asking me about college and ACT and school. And, I don't want that to happen. So I want to change my approach there and how I can help influence him to think about things more positively with us.
Oh, that's it. Yeah. Thank you, Ken. I think that's awesome. You know what I think of when you're talking about that is that a lot of these principles apply not only in the professional world, but they apply personally as well, don't they?
Yes, they do.
Imagine our families, if we're doing the things that I mentioned, like helping them achieve their goals and their dreams, encouraging them, helping them overcome their challenges, right? And not being using some of the other less effective influencing methods that we mentioned earlier. But thank you for your transparency, because I think that's true. That's real. The way we interact with people outside of the workplace is just as important, absolutely important as we do on the inside. So thank you. Thank you. All right. Hey, one more. I'm going to go with one more. Who's going to be bold enough? We got one more. One more.
Yeah, I'll be bold. I'll jump out a little bit. I want to apologize. I'm new to the group.
Hey, Lance.
Apologize for the casualness, but I'm actually not coaching right now. I'm just trying to jump out here and kind of get myself, kind of stay. So down a little bit, but I appreciate sort of the invite. The person I wanted to influence, it's funny, as I said in the group, my first person was actually my son, also teenage, teen, what's that, independence, etc. That was the first thought, but from a professional standpoint, I have a client that I would like to sort of influence in a positive way. Because I'm she's a long time company, and I am consulting project by project, and I see her push and often her struggle to make a difference in this new organization, and in terms of I would like to help influence and kind of give her some insights on, how to navigate possibly a little better, just from the outside, and help influence, some directional steps in that way. So that would be my person.
So good. Yeah, no, thank you, Lance. So one, I want to tell you, thank you. Did you say you have COVID? You're recovering from that? Is that what you just said?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I had it, so I went through it as well. It took me about 2 or 3 weeks to get over, but I can sympathize with you in that, and my best wishes to you and your health that you recover.
Absolutely. I apologize. I figured I'd get on wherever I could. That's why I have my image up first. But thank you.
Yeah. Hey, all good, man. I get it. Thank you so much for being brave and being transparent. I love the fact that you picked out a couple people, one personally, one professionally, that you want to influence. And hopefully today you've walked away with some tools that you can use to do that. So thank you for being here today. That's awesome. I'm looking over here a little bit because I got a bigger face of your screen, or a bigger face of you on the screen so I can see you. So really good. So thank you so much for being here. Hey, okay, good. So thank you. It's a big deal, right? That's how we can increase our influence. One is adding value to others. And then the other way is becoming more valuable to others in doing that. And so thank you. I know not everybody had a chance to share it, but at least in the public realm, in this public forum that we have, but you did in your small group. So thank you for that. That's kind of the self-awareness, that engagement that I love during these webinars. It's less about me and it's certainly more about you. And hopefully you're doing that. Hey, as we wrap up, we've just got a few more minutes left. I promise you we will get you out here just before 7 o'clock Eastern time. I did mention this thing to you about the reflection starter kit. And all this is just 3 questions I'm going to show you here in just a second that I'm going to challenge you on. There's over 20 people online tonight that invested time in this webinar. And I'm going to challenge you. If you'll take these 3 questions and ask them of yourself every day for 7 days, I guarantee you will see some type of personal and or professional growth. You'll see results against it. Absolutely will. And I'll show you those questions right now. But I tell you what, if you're interested in taking that challenge, start today and then let me hear from you. Send me an email in 7 days and just say, hey, Press, here's what happened. Here's what I learned, and here's how I grew, and it made a difference. If you don't do it, I don't hear from anybody. That's fine. But you're on here tonight. You've taken personal responsibility and intentional about your growth. I would love to hear back from you. If you've taken these 3 questions I'm about to share with you and applied them and ask yourself every 7 days, every day. First, ask yourself today, what went right? You had wins out there. What went right? What did you do well? You did things very, very well. I hope you think that way. I don't know if you know this, sociologists also and psychologists tell us that 7 out of 10 thoughts that we have every day are negative. Think about that. We have over 40,000 thoughts a day. What if you shifted those negative thoughts to something that was positive and you looked at what went right? So what went right? Number 2, what went wrong? What went wrong? What problems, challenges, issues, conflicts, things that you ran up against during the day that you just struggled with? What were those 2 things? What went right? What went wrong? And then last but not least, ask yourself, what can I do differently? Now, that doesn't mean just the problems and what went wrong. That also means, what can I do differently around the right things? The right things as well, because you want to amplify your strength, certainly, on that. So think about that over the next 7 days. Take those 3 questions. What went right? What went wrong? And also, what can I do differently? Anybody interested in that challenge? Anybody? All right. Love to hear from you. Even if I don't hear from you, that's great. Do it. You're going to grow. I know you will. Hey, as we're around the corner here, it's really important. The reason I gave you that reflection piece, if you're not doing self-development or some way engaged in that, you know what? You've got to lead yourself better. And if you do that, others will follow. And mastering your ability to positively influence others is the key to your personal and professional growth. As we close out tonight, I always do this. I've done this all of my past webinars I've done it in training everywhere I go. Before we end the training and this webinar, the session we have, or coaching, or whatever I'm doing, I say, hey, what's your one thing? So if you're willing, I'd love to go around the horn and have some people just come up and tell me what your one takeaway was tonight. What was your one takeaway? One thing, could be tweet length, just one sentence. It doesn't have to take 5 or 6 minutes on it. But just tell me what one takeaway was from you. And then I've got a couple quick things I'll cover with you and I'll let you go. So what's one thing you took away tonight? You've invested your time. Anybody out there willing to share one thing?
Add value. Add value
Awesome.
for Noel.
Well, Noel, thank you so much. Add value. Absolutely. Awesome. Thank you. Who else? One thing.
That was my tweet headline would be add value to yourself so you can add value to others. That was my big takeaway.
Awesome. Thank you, Ben. Really good. Awesome. Who else?
Stay curious.
To help the team.
Had 2 people one time. Russ, go first, and we'll go to the next. Whoever said that next. Russ,
All right, I'll take the honors. Thank you. Engagement is mostly correlated to the relationship, the manager.
That's awesome. That's right. That's absolutely right. Who else said something?
As a person of influence to help the team grow.
That's awesome. That's right. Absolutely. I see a chat in here from Ben says listening matters. That's good. I said Lance is a transformer. That's good. Engagement is mostly correlated to the relationship, right? That's excellent. Anybody else? Anybody else have a takeaway? Okay, really good. I know it's hard to do in a group like this in a setting, but that's awesome. Hopefully there's one thing that you gained tonight getting together with us. I got 2 more quick slides to show you real quick here. Number 1, I want to just tell everybody, thank you so much. I do this for fun as part of my John Maxwell Association, and keeps me sharp, and I love, and that's me helping myself get better to become a person of influence and adding value to others as well. So those 2 things I'm trying to do, I'm applying those. But I'd love to have you join me in our next webinar. We're going to do one of John's books and talk about that briefly, about Put Your Dreams to the Test. I don't know if you've ever heard that book before. But it's a wonderful book. If you have a dream or you've thought about something you really want to do and not sure how to get there, I'm going to address that in the next webinar we have in March. Hey, be on the lookout tomorrow. Get some emails from me, but this is a great opportunity. I'll be sending out an email series on leadership. And so if you want to sign up for the monthly leadership newsletter, go ahead and do that. You'll have that email. If it hadn't come to your box already, it will tomorrow. And then the other thing that would be a big help is that if you know somebody who can benefit from some of the series that I'm doing right now, or my blog, or the other content that I put out there, refer them to me. Send me a note, introduce us over email, or send them the blog, or send them my website. You can find me out at prestonpoore.com. And last but not least, if you're okay, I'll go ahead and add you to my blog subscription right now. And if you are interested, please stay with it. We talk a lot about matters of leadership, communication, faith, a lot of different topics out there. Good stuff that we do. And if you're not interested in what I'm putting out there, that's fine too. Don't take it personally. You can unsubscribe from that. But before you go, I want to leave you with this last quote. And it's from Pauline Peters. Pauline said this, it's a leader's prayer. It said, God, when I'm wrong, make me willing to change. When I'm right, make me easy to live with. So strengthen me that the power of my influence will far exceed the authority of my position. May you become a person of influence. Thank you and good night.
Thank you, Preston.
Thank you.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Good night, everybody.
Thanks,
Have a great
Preston.
night.
Take care.
Thanks.